Welcome, everybody. So, for today, I'm very excited to be here with you, and we'll just wait a couple of minutes for everyone to just come in and stay tuned with our presentation for today. So, I'll present myself while we're still in waiting for people to come into this webinar. My name is Jesus Lopez, one of CodersLink's co-founder and chief marketing officer. And today I'm very excited to be here with you to talk about our reports release and this Q&A session. So what report am I particularly talking about? I'm talking about the Tech Salary Report 2024, and this is our 5th edition of this report. So why is this report important? Why should you really care about it? And why does it matter? For us, it's a big milestone for us to have this 5th report out there because it's been 5 years of intense understanding of the industry, intense understanding of the dynamics of the Mexico industry, the dynamics of the Mexico tech industry, and everything that has to do with it. And for us, the whole objective of building this is to help business leaders, uh, business co-founders, business owners make informed decisions about expanding, hiring, and building teams in Mexico. We see that the dynamics of a tech market are completely different as you start moving from region to region. So this report is all the X-ray of understanding that for Mexico, be that the payroll schemes dynamic, be that the densities of where you can find what type of developers, what are the regions, what are the frameworks that you can find, and a lot of different things, a lot of more insights that you can find with this report. And the amazing thing is that throughout the years, we've been finding and going from the more general and overview into the more granular aspect of things. And that's why this report is so meaningful to us, because for this 5th year, we've made huge leapfrogs in terms of how we're analyzing information to bring you even more insights. And moving from that, that's the whole objective for today, is for you to leave today with one new insight, or at least with a curiosity about what our data, what the report includes in terms of data, and how that allows you to make better decisions. That would be a job well done for us. So if you just download the report today, we can just finish this, wrap up this webinar right then and there, and we'll be heading home early. But all in good fun. But I mean, talking about why you should care, why it should be important for you to trust us, and important for you to read this report and find the insights valuable, is because of its data collection and handling. That's one of the things that we set out as a core value and as a core vision as we were building this report, is ensure that it's on a very high quality standard in terms of how we're collecting data, the amount of data that we're collecting, the strength of that data. For this year's report, we collected over 24,000 individual accepted responses and correlated that with salary data from 19 major companies that also contributed to that. So that's huge. For us, it's always about pushing the threshold in terms of how many individual responses we can make, and also how many companies we can get involved, so we can provide a lot of data points and ensure that what you're seeing is of value and that you can use that to make informed decision from the get-go. And I'd like to take a minute to give you a sneak peek in terms of what happens behind the scenes of creating this report. It's one of the most challenging and rewarding processes that we have within CodersLink. It's always a challenge. Every year we say that this is the best report that we created internally, and it usually starts off as a joke because we always say that, and it's in reality something that pushes us to always do and improve the next year's report. And this year's report, we're pushing the boundaries in terms of including more correlations and analysis. What type of industries do come in play for the salaries? How does that affect the salaries? Talking about the different seniorities, talking about the English levels, talking as well as the frameworks. How does that relate with the roles and the salary levels? So everything comes into play, and we're also always pushing that boundary. But that's what you see. But what happens out behind the scenes? It's late nights, it's chapter rewrites, it's long conversation about, will this matter? Is this important? Are we really understanding what our end user wants and putting that into our report? It's getting angry with data. It's getting frustrated. Everything from that standpoint is at play there when we're creating the report. Everything happens, but at the end we come out stronger and you get a better report for it. So that's what happens behind the report. And this wouldn't really be possible without the amazing marketing team at CodersLink. It's all their merit. They put their heart and soul into every single page, every creative design, every bullet, every comma, anything, everything that isn't that report that you hold in your hands is to ensure to that you get the best quality report, right? And it also wouldn't be available, it wouldn't be possible without our partners, Bootcamp Institute, Dexty, RH Plus, and you that are here with us, you that are reading the report, and all of the respondents out there that participate in our report. We wouldn't be able to get there. So moving past this initial remarks, I also want to talk about what agenda we're going to talk about today. And the first part of it would be our survey collection methodologies. And this goes with our interest of saying, why should you care? Why should you listen to us? That's the first part of it. Then we'll dive into what you're really here for, which is the key analytical insights in our report. Just a few, we couldn't fit them all, only about 10%. Because if not, we'll be here for about 3 hours, and we know you got a lot of stuff in your plate, and we want to make sure that you're getting just the golden nuggets. And after that, we'll go into a Q&A with yours truly, and Q&A with you guys. So that will wrap up our whole today, our whole event, our whole webinar. And hopefully, again, we're able to answer all of your questions. If not, you can put them in the comment section and we'll get to them after the recording if we're not able to get them live. And with that being said, make sure to write down your questions. This only becomes valuable to you if we're able to really answer your pressing questions and what you really want to know. It's not about what we want to talk about, it's about what we can give you in terms of insights from the data that we've been analyzing. So keep that in mind. If you have a question, write it down in the comment section. What we'll do is we're going to start grouping them on the backstage, and then we'll get to them in our final Q&A section. So with that being said, I want to pass this on to Carlos Vasquez, aka Charlie, our senior growth marketer at CodersLink and mastermind behind the Tech Salaries report, Data Ninja. He's been going at it for a couple of years, one of the longest standing collaborators here at CodersLink. And, happy to be here, Charlie. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Jesus, for that amazing introduction and the context for this presentation, of course. So everyone, I want to, before we dive into the nitty-gritty of our findings, so I'm going to talk about how we got there, because the Tech Salary reports is amazing. We have they have a lot of data that we analyze there. So gathering the data, as Jesus said before, wasn't a walk in the park for sure. We tap into the various sources, including our own survey that we launch every year, plus some other collaborations that help us a lot with HR Plus, Bootcamp Institute, and Dexty. So shout out to them for the invaluable help to create this report. So now picture this. We reached out over 20,000 tech professionals in Mexico. And yeah, it was a hustle because we needed to reach all of these professionals to analyze more than 40 roles in Mexico. And a lot of the roles are very new, so it was complicated. And the kicker here is that to up our accuracy game here, we needed to validate that data with the survey data that we collected with the actual payroll data. So you can say that it's very reliable. And so as we dig deep into the juicy stuff of the report, just remember that the methodology and data sources that we're presenting they're rock solid, right? And therefore, you can trust this data, this report, to take very important decisions for your business and your expansion into Mexico. So, all right, now we're gonna talk about how we unpacked all that data and turn it into gold. We roll up of our sleeves and dove deep into some serious analytical techniques. We actually use a lot of different options to analyze the data. And if there's someone, a data analyst here, that they know how difficult that is, and to find out which approach is the best to get the information and the insights that we need from the data that we have. So these robust statistical methods help us to correlate a lot of the data that we have. But arguably, the one that we use the most, it's correlation. So it's we can say that it was our bread and butter, because we know that salaries depends on a lot of variables. So it helps us spot trends and understand how different factors impact salaries. And just a quick disclaimer: I always love to say this because it's important for you to know that correlation doesn't equal causation, right? It's like saying that just because you eat ice cream today, the sun is out. That doesn't mean that every time you eat ice cream, that causes the sun to come out, right? That's exactly what it means. So I just wish that we can dive to every correlation that we did for the report, but we can't for the time. So we're gonna give you a few examples to give you a taste of it. And as Jesus said, you can download this report right after we finish our presentation. We're gonna be sharing the link on the comment section for you to actually access the report, and you wanna save that link for later and fill out the form and get the report. It's gonna come to your email. So if you are familiar with correlations, this is gonna look very familiar to you. So in this scenario that we have here, we are correlating salary with a tech stack. I know that when we are talking to you companies that are in the look for tech talent and looking to hire programmers all over the world, programming languages are very valuable for you to know how much they value it in the market, right? So we delved in really deep into the different tech skills that impacted those salary ranges. And here's the scope of our analysis. We revealed that professionals with expertise on hot technologies like machine learning, cloud computing, tend to rank those big bucks, right? Because they have technologies that are very like low in density, but really high in salaries. In this graph that you can see, we know that Python towers above the rest with an average salary of I cannot see it because I'm blind, but it's $22,500 around that. And because not that, that's because Python are like the pros on the market right now with machine learning, and it's all about supply and demand. To be honest, as economists like to say, it's high demand plus low supply equals like big bucks. So because of the supply of Python developers right now, it's really low. We are seeing really high salaries. Now let's talk about JavaScript that we also see in this graph. Sure, the JavaScript developers are the powerhouses of this industry as well, because it's programming languages that has been used for a long time and is very popular. And we can see that JavaScript developers have a very high density, and it doesn't reflect the density with the actual salary, right? It's because we honestly think it's because it's an equilibrium between the density of we can find these professionals in the tech landscape, in not just in Mexico but around the world, and the supply, it's really high, so the demand, it's like it's managed to have that equilibrium of salaries. So just keep in mind that this is something that you're going to be seeing on the report. We also see on the report, we presented some data about frameworks. So the correlation between frameworks, it's similar to their programming languages when it comes to salary trends. So let's dive deep into some of the insights that we can see in this graph. So Vue.js, for example, Vue.js, Django, Flask, and Angular are making waves into the tech world because uh, they're not just about like new programming languages. It's about like how the technology is being developed, and these frameworks are the ones who are being used by professionals in the tech industry to develop new technologies, and they're making a lot of waves for salaries as well. And it's the one of the puzzles, the pieces of the puzzles here is that we see a lot of .NET density of developers, but as I said before, it is a high density. It doesn't reflect the salary to be that high, but also because we have seen that there's a lot of IT consulting companies for our develop software development companies that they're paying like lower salaries, but this is some of the causes that we have seen in the industry, right? Moving forward, there's another correlation that we included in this report, and this is a correlation between tech salaries and the different industries. Now, here's the thing. Tech isn't just about tech companies anymore. It's about like the game has been changing over this past 6 years. And we have seen some changes in industries like tourism, culture, food, education, government, healthcare, and even real estate. They're actually hopping onto the tech bandwagon because they're now interested in hiring a lot of tech professionals. And honestly, they're diving headfirst because they're offering high salaries as well. We know that the entertainment and media industry was one of the industries that was hiring a lot during the pandemic, and they were offering really high salaries. And honestly, now that these industries are competing for tech talent, the tech talent pool for only tech companies or software development companies, it's getting a little difficult because of these new industries starting to hire more and more tech professionals. Um, Here you can see in this table, I know there's a lot of information in the table, but you can see that the IT consulting company has the widest range of salaries, like going from $600 all the way to $45,000. And it's because we are including a lot of the roles that individual contributors, or also we are including architects, engineering managers, and other leadership roles in this section. So you're going to have this wider range of salaries in here. But if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about your industry that you have, please let us know in the comment section. We can answer those questions for you. So for the next part of the presentation, we're going to show you some insights and the impact that they have for you. Because let's be honest, if we don't understand the insights and the impact, you would just see numbers. It's not about just numbers here. It's about actually uncovering and grasping the significance of the information that you have at your hands. So now, as we talk about this next slide shows a little table. This table is one of the most popular information that we have in our report. So just keep in mind that the table doesn't show all the information that we have available in the report that you can download right now. We have analyzed over 40 tech roles and their salaries. From backend developers to data analysts, it's everything crunching in this information in the table that we have in the report. You can see that we added an important indicator for you, which is the data strength. As you read to this report, you're going to find that the data can have variation of how strong it is or how trustworthy is information, right? Because the higher the strength, the data strength, is because we know that the averages, the ranges of salaries are actually more closer to the reality than the ones who have maybe lower data strength or even medium data strength. They have a range of variations of maybe 5 to 10% variation. So just keep that in mind. Let's take an example of the backend developers right now here. We can see that the intermediate salaries in Mexico for a backend developer, it's around the $2,700. For a senior developers, it's around $3,700. But in comparison with seniors in the US for the same role, we can see that it's above $12,000. So in general, we can see that there's an interesting like cost savings in these scenarios because of not only because I don't want to say like ever when we are discussing this information that it's because tech talent in Mexico is cheaper. It's not. There's a lot of macroeconomics. There's a lot of situations where the value of our wages are different in every country, right? So you're actually reducing cost because of your nearshoring strategies, reducing this cost by 65%. So just keep that in mind. And we know that in the data that you're going to be reading on the report, we actually range from all the way from 30% to 85% in cost savings in some of their goals. Now, in this next slide, I'm going to be talking about English proficiency in the tech industry. We know that the linguistic skills can command a premium, right? So let's take a look at this pie chart, and because it's very eye-opening. Well, 30% of the tech professionals actually has an advanced level of English, and 60% have an intermediate level of English. We know that almost half of them, 50% of them, has basic to no English. But this is where it gets interesting. We discussed some strategies in our team internally that you can take advantage of them. Just imagine that you can hire engineering managers or project managers with top-notch English skills, but you can hire as well some professionals that doesn't have that top level of English, and you still have a manager that can lead these teams with optimizing costs of these premiums that you can pay. You have to pay if you hire someone who with an advanced level of English or intermediate level of English, but you will still have that efficiency and quality in the development of the products that you are doing. It's a win-win situation, to be honest. It's cost-effective hiring and maintaining your higher standards while you are tapping onto this talent that hasn't been exploited, right? For our next insight, this is a really interesting information for you, because if you're considering nearshoring your teams to Mexico, you will also have to keep in mind the rate exchange and the monetary value of paying salaries from US dollars to Mexican pesos. We have seen a huge impact in the ranges of salaries because of the valuation of peso against the dollar. Let's take an example and these historical values that we have seen in the past. Let's say you hire an engineer in 2021 and pay them $1,000. At the time, the amount you are actually paying your developer in pesos is 20,500 pesos. If we fast forward to 2023 and you're now still paying them, let's say you never increase salaries and you're still paying them the same $1,000, then the exchange rate in 2023, it's 17.13 pesos per dollar. So you are actually paying them 17 pesos. That's a decrease that almost 4,000 pesos. It's a significant value that they're losing because of that exchange rate. But this is not always a bad signal for you or something bad for salaries. You just need to make adjustments with exchange rate when you're considering these strategies. And not only if you're paying them directly, but if you are also using companies for payroll or nearshoring companies that will help you hire these professionals, probably you will have to make some adjustments in the contract. But this next information that we have here, it's gonna, I guess, put the smile back into you and still considering the nearshoring hiring a nearshoring team, because in the past years we saw an increase in salaries. It was like a bubble of salaries, to be honest, from 2021 to 2023 due to the COVID, the pandemic. A lot of companies were hiring, like media companies, a lot of social media companies start hiring like crazy. So the salaries got increased um, even even higher than the 2020 year salaries. But in 2024, we're seeing a downward trend of the salaries, which is an adjustment for companies are maybe just adjusting their strategies. They are making their teams to work on a with a different strategies, more lean. So the decrease in salaries are actually that the good side of the story of an exchange rate, because you are actually paying less amount of wages because of these adjustments. And now, as we move forward, I'm just gonna make a little pause in here to just digest what we have been discussing so far, because it's a lot of information, I know. But there's something I want to add here. And when you're considering salaries and all the information that you have, it's sometimes it's like a menu, right? You have some an item that you are like considering, and then you want an extra. Let's say English proficiency, let's say seniority, let's say the difficulty of hiring someone with a specific programming language. Then you are adding up a lot of difficult characteristic to that menu, and that will make you have a hard time looking at or sourcing those talents, because it's almost like finding a unicorn. Those are things that you have to consider when correlating the variables that we are showing in the report to the things that you want to include in your job description, right? It's going to be harder for you to find someone with every top-notch characteristic for the talent. Jesus, you want to add something here before we move on?
Now I'm hungry with all the menu talk. But no, in all seriousness, I guess I think you've been mentioning some great insights in terms of how to slice and dice the data that we've been finding, and I just want to make a couple of key points just to help close this section in terms of what we've been talking. And we've mentioned different frameworks and different salaries. Whenever you're thinking about those, just also keep in mind what you saw in terms of this graphic is frameworks and roles and programming languages. I'm sorry, frameworks and programming languages with salaries. You have to also understand that there's more ways to slice that data. You can also think about a role, a framework, and also a salary. So that is information that you'll be able to find in our report as well, and things that you can also expect from us, and you'll see that as we start moving through this release and into our ending remarks, is that we have a lot of data that we're still going to be publishing as we continue to go throughout the year. We've just have too much data that if we put all of that into a report, it will be too long of a report, and then you will get bored, and then no one would like it, and then we wouldn't produce it. So it's just something, a scenario we don't want to go to. So just keep that in mind, because all of that possibilities are available. Even if you want something that's custom, you can come to us. You can ask that question. You can send that email, and we'll be glad to talk about what we know and what possibilities are out there in terms of the data and what we can do with it. Another interesting insight, and also something that I was thinking about as you were going at it, Charlie, was the roles and the salaries that we were seeing. So keep in mind that the roles that we saw when Charlie was going through the table, I think it was about 6 to 7 roles. Those are people and salary data from bilingual roles from Mexico. So just to give you a context in terms of what we're seeing, the whole universe of data was taken into consideration all the different English levels, but this table specifically is a subset of that universe that takes into account bilingual and fully proficient in English. That's to ensure that you are able to understand what really matters to you, because that's what we've seen from our partners that makes the most sense. So just another interesting insight in terms of how to look at this report and how to look at this table. Again, you'll see those disclaimers in a report, and you'll see more about in terms of what includes this final number that you're seeing. And finally, just to wrap up my comments here, you saw, and Charlie talked about the all the exchange rates. And one interesting insight that we were talking about earlier this week is there's always something, and I think Charlie mentioned it earlier. You have to pick and choose, right? if you decide to say, hey, I want to keep my monthly fixed costs in dollars just fixed, then that means as the currency fluctuates, the salary of your collaborator and developer might suffer. So that might lead to retention issues. So you have to think about the implications of what you're choosing and how this is affecting your strategy. Flipping that the other way around is if you're fixing the salary and the currency of the location your collaborator is in, then you also have to understand that you're going to have fluctuations in terms of your monthly costs. So again, whenever you're thinking about this global outsourcing, nearshoring, and fluctuations in terms of the currency, it's about picking and choosing. Do I want to have and think about retention and then use some other strategies to try and curve that, or do I want to ensure that I can uh, deal with price volatility, even if it's a small percentage? So just think about that whenever you're thinking about your hiring strategy. And those are some parts of what we also help in terms of CoderSync and ensuring that you make the right decision and you understand the full breadth of variables whenever you're choosing to expand or to build a team in Mexico. Back to you, Charlie.
Thank you, Jesus. And something that I didn't mention, I guess, is we consider all the macroeconomics that happens, and you also have to consider that when you're doing this strategy for nearshoring. And feel free to talk to our experts when you're like thinking about hiring in Mexico, because they know they have all these considerations in mind. We have election year in Mexico and also the US, so fluctuations in salary in exchange rate, it's sometimes a reflect of those macroeconomics in politics that happens and in every country, to be honest. So it's not about just Mexico. So moving forward we're going to be talking about the nearshoring competitiveness of Mexico in the region of Latin America. As we analyze every year, we analyze the situation of the current market in nearshoring and offshoring. We know that Latin America has become one of the huge partners for companies to develop, not just develop software, but as manufacturing as well. We know that we compete with Brazil, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, and Costa Rica, right? But Mexico has unique characteristics that has made Mexico the first trading partner for North America. And we're gonna discuss those characteristics in the next slide. Just keep in mind that you can find more information about the regions that we are discussing for Latin America as a competitive market for nearshoring in our Tech Salaries report. So now let's dive into Mexico's nearshoring opportunities and explore what makes a premier tech nearshoring hub. So we analyzed numerous regions across Mexico. We're gonna focus on 5 of them, which are the key ones that stand out for developing tech teams. One of them is Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, Tijuana, and Puebla. Mexico City and Guadalajara are the powerhouses when it comes to talent. They boost large talent pools and a vibrant tech ecosystems, making them a prime locations for tech startups and companies. Moving up north, we have Monterrey and Tijuana. These regions share really close cultural similarities with neighbors in the US and hold the highest level of English proficiency if you're looking for that. Monterrey benefits from the exchange of knowledge with Texas, while Tijuana is making strides to become the Silicon Valley of Mexico, particularly with its grown automotive industry and manufacturing and aerospace. The title of Silicon Valley, it's a battle between Guadalajara and Tijuana all the time, but actually Tijuana is the closest to Silicon Valley. Fun fact, if you want to know. So now let's don't forget about Puebla, which is the last one in our list, that it's situated close to Mexico City, and it's becoming a really hot spot for tech professionals looking for a less crowded environment. In our past report last year, we included another region which is called Yucatan. It's in the southern area part of Mexico. It's something some other regions that we mentioned in our past report. We don't include them here because we want you to give you a glance of everything. But if you go ahead and download our report or past year's reports, you're going to see a lot of discussion on these regions as well. But Mexico City and Puebla, as they are together, they're like thriving a lot for tech professionals. Now, it's important to know that each state in Mexico has its own unique characteristic and talent pool. Well, and while we cannot cover them, all of them, rest assured that Mexico as a whole is experiencing a tremendous growth in tech talent, and also nearshoring activity. And the major tech companies are moving their offices, satellite offices, and opening teams and even operations to Mexico because of that. So it's a growing tech ecosystem, if that makes sense. So as we are closing right now, we are all over 30 minutes right now, but just keep in mind that in the report you can find out a lot of information. One of them is the comparison between Latin regions and Mexico, detailed analysis on salaries with all these cross um, referencing with the variables that we have analyzed. But one of the chapters I like the most, to be honest, is employee benefits and preferences, because it's one of the chapters that is very comprehensive, and it's going to help you develop a new benefit package if you are in that process for this year or next year. But it's going to show you what tech professionals are looking for. It is eye-opening, to be honest. So make sure you download the report and read that section thoroughly, because it has a lot of insights in there for you. And as a bonus, we included the hiring models and strategies that you can unpack with ColorsLink and start hiring right away. So yeah, we're gonna move on, and we're gonna have some insights from Jesus. But I don't know if you want to add something to the nearshoring insights that we have shared, Jesus, if you're there.
I am. So moving moving to a little some added insights in terms of the region. It's very useful to think of the regions as also how is the developer role dynamic in the specific region. So, what type of engineers can you find? What type of industries have been long-standing, and what can happen as you continue moving into those regions, and what will happen? What will trend in the future because of that? For example, and this is something that we've been studying closely, and we're looking to find a more direct relationship. But Monterrey, which is where I'm from, consequently, coincidentally, but it has long been a place where a lot of IT project outsourcing firms are housed. So we've seen that there's a lot of folks that have a lot of proficiency in certain frameworks. There's more, for example, backend developers. There's more type of full stack. You can see more project managers. So you can start understanding that per region, you start seeing a lot of industry trends. So in what Charlie was sharing with us, you can also see that in Mexico City, in Monterrey, you can see fintech firms. So that's been something that has been developing in the past years. So the reason being that I'm mentioning this is as you start seeing the regions, as you start seeing Mexico from the general into the granular as well, as I've been saying, you can start seeing how to start paving your hiring strategy. So if I'm a fintech firm that it makes more sense to find if I want to build an office, a small office, or even if I want to concentrate a group of people that have a particular set of already established experiences, then you can start thinking about those different locations and how to tap into that talent and how to make sense of the hiring strategy. And just to close up that comment, you can also start seeing that Mexico City, by the sake because it's so big, you can see that there's a big concentration about pretty much everything. So that is another thing to take into consideration. If you want basically a jack of all trades or something where you can find a little bit of everything that you know everyone's going to be in a certain place, and you can go directly to that source. So you can really go into tapping into those ideas and ensuring that you take them into consideration in terms of how you are crafting your hiring strategy. And that being said, there's just a bunch of regions that are up and coming. Charlie mentioned as well, Yucatan. That was something that we featured last year, as he mentioned, and it's always moving. And the reason that why it's always moving is uh, COVID and 2020 to 2022, there was just a big reorganization. A lot of people moved around, went back to their home states. So that moved a lot of talent around, and being able to work remotely. And you'll also find that in the report that most people are working remotely and also want to continue working remotely, or at least in a hybrid manner. And that has also shifted a little bit the densities in terms of what you can find in terms of roles and seniorities. So with that being said, we can move into the next section.
Yeah, so we just want to ask you, Jesus, because you've been in contact with a lot of companies that have used this report for their strategies. So can you share some success stories of companies adapting their strategies based on the insights that we have revealed in our previous reports?
Sure. And that is precisely what the whole, as I've been mentioning across this whole webinar, is that's the whole objective of what we why we built this report, is to give the raw materials and also serve as a sounding board to be able to craft. It could be a soft landing strategy, a nearshore strategy, or even a remote tech team building strategy. And we've had Fortune 500 companies of the likes of Pinterest, Q2, that have decided to open a new technology office, a secondary technology office in the region. And their first question was, okay, what am I looking at? Is it, how do I analyze this region, and how do I digest it, and how do I tackle it? So those questions were quickly responded through our report, but that prompted more questions. That's where we come in. We support in understanding what is the actual roadmap to get there. And for example, in Pinterest case, we supported them in building their in-person office in Mexico City. So why Mexico City? What, how can I craft my, who do I target first? Are they in the region? What type of salaries are they interested in? And not only salaries, the whole compensation package. Because remembering, Mexico has a different payment schemes than the US or even other parts of the world have. So you have to take that into consideration. The payment schemes, the compensation, the benefits, the perks. What are they really looking at? What are they caring about? Because they don't care for the same things as, again, as I've been saying, other regions do. So it's about understanding all those different nuances and being able to craft a winning strategy and deploying it. So those are two great case studies about how Fortune 500 companies have been able to do that. And I'll share another one from a venture backed startup. And what they've done is also understand some very specialized and key talent that they can find. And they went after very particular set of skills and set of frameworks and roles for a very senior position. So they were able to find a couple of those people, and through that be and build out what they wanted to build in terms of their product roadmap. So that's another strategy that you can use, is sort of going for those high skills, those gaps that you have in your current technology team, to ensure that you're able to reach your product roadmap, your goals, and of course your milestones. So
Perfect. Yeah. So one more question about, like, we know that the landscape in Mexico and has changed, and the hiring landscape in Mexico has changed in the past years. What do you look for 2024 and even 2025? What are some insights that you can share about that?
that is a very great question. So I think, to understand where we go into 2024 and 2025, I mean, we're almost halfway through the year, which is crazy. But I always believe you have to go back and understand where we're coming from and what's happening, to understand a little bit in terms of where we're trending. And going into the first part of it is what's been happening. So for 2020 to 2022, what we saw is that there was a huge jump in everything that had to do with hiring. Everyone knows it. Everyone has been talking about it for a long time. I will not delve into the whole details and just be talking about it for long, but that's part of the whole equation. That exploded remote work, that exploded Latin Americans' position in terms of a talent tech uh, blue ocean. So those are the trends that we're coming from. And that becomes and allows us to understand that we saw a huge increase in hirings, and everyone knows this as well. And then we saw basically the complete opposite. We saw a reverse or a decline and a slowdown in 2023 uh, that basically affected everyone. And it was an adjustment in my eyes, and from what I've been understanding, it's an adjustment and also a response to a lot of macroeconomic activity, the interest rates, also currency fluctuations, the strengthening of certain currencies, and also in a sense we were in a hiring uh, glut, and it just we had to come down. And what we're seeing in my analysis is that we had to readjust to this new reality, and we had to readjust to what had happened in on those years before, and that led to teams being more product specific, teams being more focused in terms of what their bets are, where teams being more structured and less extends and for them to reach their goals. So where does this lead us into 2024? And this is what we've been seeing. 2024 is a recovery year. It's slowly trending upwards, not as aggressive as we saw in 2020 and all the way to 2022, but still a completely different tune than was 2023. Just as a general, aspect and point for this idea, at CodersInc, we've been seeing in Q1 the same movement in terms of hiring demand and also placements than we saw in the first 6 to 7 months of last year. So that is something that's a trending factor and a leading factor for us, saying that we're trending into that direction. I wouldn't say that we're going back to those levels that we saw in 2020, but we are definitely moving towards a more sustainable and I'll say 2028. I'm sorry, 2018, 2019 levels. So we should look at that, and we should start seeing that. And in terms of trends, more so from that, I believe that in 5 years we're also going to be seeing a more focus in a further focus or a more in-depth focus of hiring for culture and then upskilling. So I'll leave you guys with that, and we can talk more about some other details, or I could just ramble here about trends all day.
Yeah, it's really interesting the insights you are sharing, of course. And the more that we do these reports, the more we find a lot of patterns that has like it's been changing the hiring landscape. But one of the things that we also looked into this tech Salaries report was the work modalities that you mentioned briefly, that it's changing a lot. There's a lot of companies hiring hybrid now more than remotely. However, the talent doesn't like that. They actually prefer to keep working remotely. But we know that companies are moving onto that strategy to build more the culture of the company. This is something really important for businesses to hire for culture as well, and not just for skills. So that's some interesting insights. So I just want to share some freaking ask questions that we always get from our report, because one of the difference, like people ask us a lot, like what's the difference of your report and some other reports that are available online, because we know that there are more reports online that you can get. Ours is free for now, so take advantage of that. And our report is very comprehensive. It doesn't only talk about salary data, but also we gather a lot of data in relation of profiles. We try to understand the salary for gender, for example. So that's something that your company cares about. Like that's something we can provide. We track a lot of information for benefits, the sentiment of the labor tech industry. We also track layoffs and stuff and things like that, because it's really important for us to really look at the big picture and not just salaries, because we know salaries affect a lot when things like um, gender disparity is happening, or maybe there's a boom in some key industries, then those salaries are going to be affected. So just keep in mind that our report is very comprehensive. And if you are also you have questions about the report, we always are able to gather more data for you and to take more decisions for your hiring needs. When you talk to our experts about hiring, we look at our data or raw data and give you more insights. So it's not only the things that we have in the report, as Jesus said before, we will be sharing a lot of new information that will be coming up in our blog. So if you haven't visited our blog, make sure you do. And we're going to be sharing a lot of information there as well.
Yeah, and I'll add quickly to that that we approach this from a use case perspective first. So what are the problems that we're seeing, and we're staying close to those problems by having and engaging with conversations with our prospective clients, with our clients, with our candidate community, and understanding what are the pain points, what are the problems, are the insights that are allowing them to make informed decisions and good decisions, and then putting those into the report. And part of something that we discussed last year and we also incorporated this year is problem solution approach. So, what is the actual problem? How does the data support us to make a decision? What's the solution based on the data or the insight? So that also allows you to get not only just raw data that just pasted in a page, but also what is the actual insight behind that and what that data is telling us, informed with more industry context and informed with what the actual market movement is. So that's also something to take in consideration as you start to read our report.
Perfect. Yeah. And I guess some other questions that we ask a lot is, can we actually make like personalized reports? As I said before, you can talk to our sales team, and they're gonna be looking into the needs you have and share information with you. And we can definitely share a lot of insights from the raw data that we have, so you can take those decisions. When you are like, if you're looking into uh, hiring at ColorsLink, with ColorsLink, we have laid out some strategies that a lot of top tech companies uses to hire through us in our reports as well. So I want to ask you, Jesus, do you mind sharing some of those key services that we provide and the strategies that we provide for companies that are looking to hire talent in Mexico?
Definitely. So a lot of what we do is I'll put it in a couple of different places. And so we support in hiring individual talent in Mexico. So that is if you're looking for a specific type of talent, we are able to support you in the talent acquisition and payroll and HR management. So those are the two things that we can help you do, and for several use cases. So that is to hire a specific individual talent, or if you want to hire a whole team, that is also something that we can support you. If you're only looking to hire talent and you already have an established entity in Mexico or in Latin America, then we can support you in only finding that talent. So we're able to adapt to the different use cases you have, be that finding talent, be that build a whole team, be that expanded an existing team in Mexico or Latin America, be that just basically hiring one single person. We're supporting you through talent acquisition, talent management and payroll management, and also soft landing or nearshoring capability. So those are the three levels of how we support. And across and transversally, horizontally, what we do with everyone is we support them with insights, with market data, and with hiring strategy recommendations to ensure that we are we're helping you make the best decision possible. So those are a little bit in terms of a little bit about what our services entail and how CodersLink supports our current and future customers.
Fantastic. So yeah, and in the report we detail more of the strategies that you can start tackling with the Coders link, with the help of Coders link. And as we almost are almost done with this presentation, but is there anything else, Jesus, that you want to share before we go? And also, like you are seeing in the screen right now, the Texas report QR code. So if you want to go ahead and download the report from there, if you're watching this on your computer or watching this recording, also you can find some of the comments. In the comment section, you can find the links for the report directly, and you just get the form filled out, and you're gonna get the report in the next 5 minutes in your email. And make sure as well to reply to those emails, because we ask you, like, if you didn't get the chance to ask any questions in this live, you can also do it in our emails. We want to be really very happy to answer to any of your questions and your inquiries if you have any. So yeah.
Definitely. So I would say that is the most valuable thing that can happen is to engage in a dialogue and to also, question, well, how is this happening? How is this insight? How did this insight came to be? Can we look at it this way? Also comment. I'm seeing all these different things in terms of the same point or the same argument, and also share. Those three things are very valuable to us because that allows us to continue building something that is useful. And that is, again, our number one objective, to build something that is useful, informative, and that can allow you to take action. So your feedback, your comments, your questions, all of those help us to build this next editions and hopefully what will be the next five, so we can be here again and talk about our 10th edition and 10th anniversary. So please do that. Our communication lines are always open, and we're always happy to help you, dig through the data or answer a couple questions, as Charlie said, that are not in the report. And just some closing thoughts. Going back to what we're talking about across this whole live stream has been about data, about insights, about supporting. And like I mentioned, this is only 10%. Hopefully the rest of the 90% will be as valuable. And hopefully today you found insightful at least one thing that you were able to take home, and something that sparked your curiosity. So that is our hope. And as I also mentioned across my different remarks through the presentation, this information and what you're seeing in the report is the most relevant. But as we have a lot of data and we're still going through a lot of different correlations and a lot of different uh, slicing and dicing of the data to get more insights. So stay tuned. Stay tuned to our newsletter. Stay tuned to our blog, because we're going to be sharing more insights that we're finding as we continue to dig them up through the data. So you can continue to complement your insights about what we're finding, and hopefully we'll get to see your questions and your comments. And I hope that those who are seeing this have enjoyed the live presentation and really do enjoy the report. As I also mentioned, it's been quite a ride, but happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm very happy to present it to you. And as you said, hopefully you found at least one insight in this presentation. And of course, in the report, we hope you can find a lot of information to take more informed decisions. And thank you for inviting me, Jesus, to present this fantastic report. We hope to see you again in the next year's presentation, and we're gonna make it better than this year as always. So thank you very much.
Perfect. So yeah, it'll be amazing, and thank you for everyone for joining us. Again, today we talked about the Tech Salaries report, some of the major insights, and where you can grab your report. So check out the QR. Again, questions, comments, concerns, sharings, all that is encouraged, and we're thankful for it. And with this, we'll be ending our live, and talk to you soon, guys. Thank you very much for everything.